Welcome back to You Must Really Like with Sage Murry. I'm your host and I'm excited to have you here share a couple of moments together. So I don't have a guest this episode. It's just going to be me and the dogs. We're going to have some interruptions. We're going to have a bunch of mess ups. This isn't going to be a podcast or YouTube video thing that has a bunch of editing. It's going to be imperfect. It's going to be who we are and it's going to be what it is. So authentically, I'm going to continue to say and I'm not going to restart again because I restarted already. Not doing it. You're gonna have me as I am, okay? But we're gonna start with a mental health check. That's gonna be in every introductory episode, whether I have a guest or not. I think it's really important to check in with yourself, really important to check in with your friends, let them know where you're at, because it is really hard for people to help you when they don't know what's going on in your life and in your brain. And so, yeah, today I'm feeling good. I think on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd be like a 4.5. We've been really busy. I've been working and it's the end of the month and I work in sales, and so that's usually a lot of pressure, but the pressure's off now because we get to restart the month and I love restarting. That's something so inspiring about restarting. So yeah, that's my mental health is probably 4.5. And I think getting ready always helps, if I haven't mentioned that already. But yeah, so other things we're gonna check in on is things that we're currently being impacted by or just filling our mind with. So things that we're currently reading, things that we're currently watching, and things that we're never missing a Monday for other than this episode. So for one, I'm currently reading The Guardian by Nicholas Sparks. That's just when I'm bored. And then I read Fathered by God by John Eldridge, and then I'm also reading in Numbers in the Bible. And I love them all, all for different reasons, all deepening a relationship, and one just for entertainment, because it's nice to read love stories as a woman. Oh, to be a woman. And then for watching, I have a guilty pleasure of rewatching the same stuff. So comfort shows are Gilmore Girls currently and Jersey Shore, as well as I am watching Only Murders in the Building, and that's new. So something new. Something I'm never missing a Monday for is taking the dogs out. I take them out every Monday at least for a mile. So that's good. And I try to get one day of like yoga for trimester. I also never miss a Monday for moving to the next week of my pregnancy. So when this airs, I'll be 19 weeks with baby Charlie. So that's really exciting. And yeah, other than that, that's going to be all the really normal stuff to introduce an episode. So now we're just going to get into the body of the work and the reason for the podcast. So ultimately, I wanted to make a podcast about something that really affected my marriage, my mental health, and just my all-around relationships. And I think it really affects in biggest form your friendships, people who are trying to love you, as well as a few other things. So, and I don't want to talk about this topic lightly. I think it's something that's really deeply important and something to have conversations with, more so with your friend group, and just to find a way with your friends or your family to be able to communicate where you are with these things. So ultimately what this is going to be about is kind of about dependency on I think, guess maybe new things in your life. So I'm still trying to articulate it in the best way, but basically I'm going to call it boyfriend or baby welfare. So it's something that you're dependent on, usually for a short time, but it does affect your relationships in that time. So for instance, like a symptom of being on baby or boyfriend welfare is your friends around you or the people you are usually seeing will probably commonly say like, okay, let's change the subject, or like, let's talk about something else. Can we talk about anything else, please? What else is going on in your life? Or like, oh, did I tell you what's new in my life? Like if a friend has to say that to you, it's typically probably because you're wrapped up in some baby or boyfriend welfare. And just, I think it's kind of a fun way of saying it in your friend group. Simba's whining. But I think it's kind of a fun way of saying like, hey, I think you've got a little bit of boyfriend welfare. I'm so happy for you. I love you to bits, but I'm gonna like need to change the subject. Or just like, you obviously will know that sometimes there are times when your friends get into relationships where they're just goo goo gaga and they just want to focus on that person and all they want to talk about is that person. They'll find any way to bring them up in any conversation. They're like, oh, my boyfriend eats Cheez-Its, and you're like, what? Okay. And an example of this I saw recently in Jersey Shore, which is silly to say, but If you've watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, probably not. But there's the final season where Dina gets a boyfriend who she's now married to, which is so sweet. But she has like boyfriend welfare bad. And all of the roommates are talking about it because they're like, this girl's mental health is literally reliant on this boy and everything that has to do with him. And that's not good. You never want to be dependent on somebody to the point of, she's just a really good example of it, because if he's there, she's crying because she doesn't want him to leave. And if he's not there, then she's upset that he's not there. And it's just like, and then if she's in conversation with people and she's having a good day and not crying, it's kind of like, oh, well, Chris does this and Chris does that. And Chris is his name. Chris is also my husband's name. But anyways, and so it can get exhausting to be around those kinds of people. And we've all been there. Like, I've been there, especially when Chris and I got together, especially when Chris was at boot camp, and all these times where I was like, had more and more to talk about Chris. But there's also just seasons where you're on boyfriend welfare that it's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be something to be incredibly ashamed about, but I think it's definitely something to communicate with your friend group about. And I think it's kind of a fun and okay way to say like, hey, I think you're like seasonally doing this. I just want to bring it to your awareness because you need to be aware of where you're at. But ultimately, yeah, it can affect your relationships, because these areas will suffer, and also it'll also affect your relationship with your boyfriend or your husband. So like, for instance, when there are seasons when Chris and I have a lot of time together, it's great, it's beautiful, I love him, and it's great for him too. But there will be times when we spend so much time together and no time with other outside influences that we start to turn into each other. And it's kind of like this thing in marriage and in relationships when you've been together for a long time, where you start to be like, oh my gosh, we just said the same thing at the same time. I never would have said that. Or like, that Chris just came out of my mouth, or, I totally just said something that he would have said. And it's okay because you're around that person all the time, but it also can sometimes create a lot of bickering and fighting, like in the end of the day, because ultimately you fell in love with that person, or you started to. If you're just dating, then you're starting to really enjoy this person's presence because of the differences that you have. And then when you're spending so much time together and you're turning into one another, it's kind of like, you don't really want to have the same person in your life all the time. Like, not the same person. You don't really want to be around yourself all the time. In the same way of when you're dating someone. Like, you love yourself, you spend time with yourself, and you encourage yourself. But when you're with somebody else, you don't always want them to have the same exact thoughts as you, because that would be really boring. And that would be just flat. And it would be like, no, like, you're not growing. If you're not like having any new thoughts in your life, there's no growth, there's no new thoughts. And that's where the stalemate comes in, and where your thoughts can be replaced with somebody else's. And so anyways, all of those all of those so's, all of those buts to say, I want to help you guys find in your life, and something I've been working on in my personal life to help me grow past this as well, is finding glimmers, like little things that just spark happiness for you and spark joy. I think joy is something everlasting that comes from, for me and my faith, comes from the Lord. Something that is inside of you, and something that is just there. I think happiness is a little different. Happiness is what comes and goes, and what we usually think of when we're trying to think of like how we're doing. We don't really think of the joy that we have in our hearts and our souls, but we think about like, oh, I'm sad, or oh, I'm happy. And so finding things that help you spark that happiness inside of you to bring out the joy that is already there, I think is something that can release a lot of dependency on somebody else, because typically new experiences are the only reason that you would ever have these releases of happiness in your life otherwise, which is why you get on this welfare, whether it's with baby, or, happiness in talking about baby and their future, their life, and all of those things, or if it's about a boyfriend that you can't stop talking about, or it could be anything. It could be me with this podcast with my friends. Like, it could literally be anything. But anyhow, I think ultimately when you find those glimmers of happiness for yourself and for your life, it's something that you can spark on your own, and you don't have to depend on somebody else for. But then also, how cool of your friends and your family to know what your glimmers are, so that they can bring those to your life, and how special for them to not only know them, but also to want to bring them into your life to help you spark happiness when you might need it, or just on any old day when they're like, oh, I'm thinking of you. Like, sending you pictures of disco balls. Like, that's so fun. Or sending you a couple bucks to go grab some coffee. Like, that's so sweet, because the more you know of what those things are, the more personalized people can get for you, the more loving they can be for you. And I think that's something I'm realizing for myself is there are times and there are thoughts that'll come into my head of like, oh, I'm lonely, or oh, I don't have a bunch of friends where I'm at, or anything like that. Just things that the devil will come in and lie to me about. And it's also because I'm not reaching out to people. It's also because no one knows that when I need help. And I think for me, it's really easy to think, oh, it's weak if I text somebody that I'm having a bad day. It's like me asking for attention, or it's me asking for them to support me. Like, they probably have so much going on in their life. They don't need that from me. But ultimately, like, what greater joy is it for me when I have a friend that is texting me about their bad day? Like, there is no greater joy for me in life other than getting to be there for a friend. And I think your friends really want that opportunity for you. And the more you can let them know, oh, dog hair on my lip and it's stuck. Anyway, the more you can let them know to be there for you, that you're having a bad day, that you need somebody, and just having a list of like, oh, these things are bringing me joy recently. Like, how fun to talk about that rather than to talk about old news or gossip or anything like that. Like, that doesn't leave you feeling as good as it would to know what's been making your friend happy recently. And these are things that I all need to put into practice too. So nothing perfect here, but yeah, so I think just to share a couple of my glimmers to give you some inspiration of finding your own. The first one is boba. 10 out of 10 boba. Getting like the memories I have, getting boba and Thai tea with my friends, my best friends. That just instantly sparks joy. The second I have it in my hand and drink it, I'm like, oh, these sweet memories are brought up. And not only just the sweet memories, but now I'm happy because I'm sparking all these different drugs in my brain. It's great. That, and then I've been loving disco balls, just like little pictures of disco balls. Whenever I see them, they make me happy. And it just reminds me of just happiness. Like, disco balls are so happy to me. I don't know why. Other things, coffee's always happy. Time with my dogs, just reminding myself that I can be really present with them. That sparks happiness when they come up to me and they are excited to see me. I also get really happy when I get a text from somebody I haven't heard from in a while. And like totally guilt-free. Like, I'm not keeping track of when the last time was that I heard from a friend. I don't think anyone has time in their life to do that. But it's just so nice to to get a text and be like, oh, thinking of you, have a good day. I'm like, oh, that made me so happy, thank you. So those are just little off-the-wall things, and you're gonna have your own that are completely different. And so I hope you're able to find those. Oh, ice cream. Ice cream's a huge one, and Dr. Pepper. Okay, now that I've shared mine, just to wrap up a little bit, another thing that we're gonna do on this podcast, just to wrap up, is thank you for listening. I'm so excited that you're here, and I hope that this added some kind of benefit to your life. If not, if it was a waste of time, peace out. I'm so sorry. But also, thanks for sticking around this long. And then, yeah, so some things that I've been really liking are my Stanley cup. Just because the name of this podcast is You Must Really Like. So I feel like I need to share things that I really like. So yeah, my Stanley cup I really like. These slippers, I really like them. I got them from Temu. They were like $16 or $19, and they're freaking warm. My feet are sweating right now. So they're really good for like people that have real winter. I don't have real winter where I am right now, but anyways, love those. And I've also been really liking, I should have thought of this more. I should have made a list before I got this started even. I've been really liking my Hokas, my tennis shoes. I should show you. Oh! So these bad boys went to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and back in a day with me. I don't know why there's holes in both of them on the back. It must be the way that I walk, but here's my selling point. If you're pregnant or if you are fat, these are so comfortable because this little thing, it doesn't bend, so you just slip them right on. Like, I only need one hand to put these on, and that's so nice being pregnant. So those are my favorite things, or the things that I've been really liking. And then, sorry, the trees are all windy. That's something that sparks happiness too. No more ums. is not on my list. Is not in my vocabulary. Final things, final thoughts. Have a blessed day. I'm so glad you were here. Rate us on whatever you're listening and comment down below if you know someone who's in current boyfriend welfare, baby welfare, or if you're currently learning that you are. That's okay. So am I. I'm working through it as well, and I'm so excited to be here with you and to work through that dependency to where we can just have our happiness on our own, not need it from anybody else, but to know that we're not alone in what we're going through as well. So have a great day. About something that's been affecting me. Welcome to Simba's life. It's your world. You just live in it. Fuck! Okay. So we'll restart. Because boyfriend doesn't stay very long, or two, if that baby doesn't stay very long. I'm not gonna say that. We're gonna restart. On that note. Something that, damn, fucking but. This isn't a very good topic if I keep saying but. Ugh! Today I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. I got ready for the day. Yes, Simba wants to be the guest. I'm never gonna get this watching, and currently if we're Simba's thirsty. If we're not, so many ums. If I say one more time. No good podcaster says God damn. It's the last time I'm restarting. Okay, this is the last time I'm going to restart. For whatever reason. So, what is the point of this podcast?